Hey everyone, now that I'm back in Fort Lauderdale, it's time to start talking about casting and the fundamentals that go into casting. Now there's quite a few things that I'm going to be going over with you that are going to require several different videos, but I just want to go over them now. I've written them down because I don't want to miss any, even though I'm still probably missed a couple, but for now, let's just start right here. As we already discussed, hand and finger up at the top of the cork. Always want to be at the top of the cork. That's going to allow you to thrust through the base of the rod all the way through to the tip of the rod. And as I discussed, I've got my little indent right here, which I am not telling you to do, but for me, it works. So again, hand at the top of the cork, very important. The second one that we do, you've got to learn to load your fly line. Now, what does that mean? In the front of a fly line, you generally have about 40 feet of what's called the shooting head. It's the thicker diameter part of the fly line, which actually allows it to thrust the rest of the running line out to where you're throwing. So you've got to learn to load that going back, load that going forward in your false cast as you're adjusting the amount of line that you need. So you've got to fully load it. That line's got to go all the way forward, all the way back, all the way forward, all the way back. That's what we're going to talk about when we talk about loading the fly line. Number three, we're going to also then have to discuss kind of what we've touched on, but using your wrist. Again, this isn't a spinning rod. So I've seen several people when they go to throw, they use too much of their arm. They almost cast it like a spinning rod. Guys, this is a fly rod. You're going to see that when we throw, we don't have a lot of motion in our body. It's right here in our arm, and it's basically wrist through my elbow. So what we're going to do as we go to lift the line, we're going to thrust the wrist back, then go forward, push the wrist forward. It's this notch back, push forward. It's this motion. It's like a hammer motion. As you go to lift up, you pull it up sharply. That allows that line to really jump and extend out back. Then as you go forward to finish your cast, you shove through it again, through your thumb, through it. So it's a push up, push down, push up, push down. That's something that's very important. Now, the next thing, and I'm looking at this like I told you I would be, we want to keep the rod still at the top of the cast and at the forward cast. Now, so what does that mean? Again, I've seen a lot of people what I call rod creeping, and we'll come to that in just a second. So on a good cast, as you back cast, you're going to let your rod reach that point to where you're most comfortable. And what we're going to do here is show you between the 10 and 2 for this practice cast, but you're going to adjust that as you get better. But basically, as your line goes back, your rod stays in that back position until it's fully loaded. Then you drive forward, line and rod going together to finish that cast. And there again, the rod stays forward there. Now this is important when you're false casting. The rod's going to go back, you're going to keep it back, then it's going to go forward, you're going to keep it forward. Back, forward. Creeping, when people do that, is as their cast goes back, as it's loading, they're automatically, for some reason, allowing the rod to drift forward. So basically, what you've got, instead of keeping your rod back for a fully loaded cast, which will allow you to work through the base of the rod through the tip, they're bringing the rod to here, and then they're trying to finish the cast at 50% load, 50% of the rod, which generally means they're only using pretty much the middle of the rod to the tip of the rod. Now, what happens when you do that, most of the time, you will see once you start distance casting, that line will collapse on you. The loop will fall on itself. There's just not enough power in the tip of your rod to finish that cast by only using 50% of it. So we're going to have a separate video just on that because that's very important, as I see that done a lot, and that's something that really hurts your cast. All right, now, one of the last things we're going to talk about, and this is very important, we're going to keep the rod on one plane. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, when I throw, if this is at 12 o'clock, my rod's generally at 1 o'clock. I don't throw straight over. Now, I can throw straight over. I can even throw over my left if necessary due to the wind. But as a basic rule for me, I throw out here at about a 1 o'clock position, forward and back. Practice casting, false casting, it's always there. I don't do here, and I don't go any further out as I don't want the line to hit the water. So I'm pretty much just right here. So what do I talk about when I talk about keeping the plane of the rod straight? What I'm telling you is I want the motion of the rod to stay in one line. Always one line back, one line forward. What I've seen a lot of people do is they allow their rod, as it's going forward, they will move their wrist. They'll rotate their wrist slightly. And let me tell you, anytime you rotate your wrist or you rotate that rod from one straight motion, the tip of the rod always goes. So when you rotate the tip of the rod, the line's gonna follow that rotation. And what that's gonna do is, instead of a nice straight cast going all the way out and just falling in a straight line, wherever your rod tip goes, you will notice that as your line finishes at the end, the line will kick right or it'll kick left. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they go out, but wherever it goes, the fly line is gonna follow that. So instead of the line laying straight out, your fly might be 3 feet or 5 feet to the right, or 3 feet or 5 feet to the left. The line might be straight, but the end of the cast is going to go where the tip of the rod goes. So that's something you don't wanna do either. So we're gonna go outside and we're gonna just practice the fundamentals of just starting the cast the way I did when I first started. Basically, it's gonna be thumb on here. I'm gonna take about 20, 25 feet of line and I'm gonna single haul. I'm gonna put the line in my finger and I'm just going to be going from the 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock position, back and forth. What I'm gonna show you there is I'm gonna fully load the line. It's important. We want that line to fully load. I want that line to extend all the way out to where it's almost completely flat. In my case, just about starts to fall, then I go forward. Let that line get all the way back, then all the way forward. All the way back and all the way forward. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna do a video of that. I'm also gonna do a little slow-mo video of that so you can see it. I hope this helps, but this is just the start of quite a few videos that we're gonna do to get you to that next level. So I'll see you outside in a minute. So as we just got through talking about the fundamentals that go into a cast, I'm gonna now show you how I kind of developed my own stroke. First, as we discussed, my thumb is up at the top of the cork. Now, this particular motion is going to be to show you how to fully load your cast forward and back. What that means to you is, when you fully load it forward, the line is going all the way forward. The curl is going to open up to be completion, then it's ready to go back. The back cast, it's the same motion. It goes back, it must fully release, then it's ready to go forward. If you do not do that, you'll find your line might collapse on you, and sometimes you'll also hear the fly in the back making a little pop noise. That's a clear indication that you're not loading the rod. Now the second part of this is driving through. And the reason why we have our finger up on the cork is because you'll notice I push through. It's not a cast where you just roll your arm. You'll notice as I come up, I flip the wrist up. As it fully loads, I go down and I finish the cast by flipping it forward. Pick up, flip back, fully load, go forward, flip down. So those two must be together. Now we're starting with 25 feet of line because this is a single haul pretty much. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, up, down. Back up here at that 2 o'clock position to 10 o'clock. 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Now this is just for practicing because we're going to extend that 2 to 10 here shortly. But notice, up, down, up, flip the wrist forward, flip the wrist back, flip the wrist forward, back, forward, back with the rod in one position, forward, back, it stays back, then forward, back, notice how I drive forward, back, drive forward, drive back, drive forward, drive back, drive forward. Now, it doesn't have to be a huge motion. It can be just the slightest little wrist motion, as you can see, that'll generate that line speed. It doesn't take a lot to generate that line speed, but it has to happen at the right time. Everything in fly fishing is timing. The rod, back, forward. Fully loaded, forward. Fully loaded back, fully loaded forward. Fully loaded back, fully loaded forward. Now I'm telling you, I would do this until my wrist hurt. Throw it there, throw it up. This will develop your stroke. Just go back and forth until you just can't do it anymore. And trust me, it's already hurting. Now this isn't about being a cute cast. This isn't about a tight loop. This is just about developing that stroke. Up, down, fully loaded, push forward, fully loaded, back, fully loaded, push forward, push back, push forward, push back, push forward, back, and then just let her lay down nice and easy. Got a nice, beautiful straight cast. So as you can see, with the slow motion cast, you can see that I am fully loading the rod forward, goes all the way forward to the very end. Then as I go back, I snap my wrist back, which thrusts the line back, fully loads in the rear, and then snap it again forward. You can see how it's fully extending. It's a slight snap of the wrist back again, fully extends in the back, snap forward, fully extends in the forward. That's what we're looking to do.